Can you imagine being banned from playing football for your own country because you have the blood of dead soldiers on your hands? I definitely hope you don't, but that is actually exactly what happened to Germany and Japan back in 1950. You see, World War II had been over for about 5 years, and the World Cup was just about to start again after being canceled 2 times because of the war. But when the tournament came back, FIFA decided to be petty and banned Germany and Japan for being major participants in the war. Obviously, the decision wasn't made out of sheer pettiness. These are grown men and women we're talking about. But it does beg the question why they let Italy participate that same year. Most of the countries that were banned from the tournament were due to their, well, questionable politics. I think South Africa is certainly no exception. You see, South Africa's extremely racist actions against black people caused them to be banned from the World Cup for over 30 years. For many years, there was a very serious racial discrimination problem in the country, which even affected their football teams. The football leagues were actually grouped by race, with the white teams being treated as superior to the black ones. The apartheid policy stated that there was to be no race mixing in football teams, and so in September of 1962, FIFA decided to ban South Africa from international football forever. And it wasn't until 1992, when apartheid finally collapsed, that South Africa gained independence and were readmitted into the tournament. They went on to qualify for the World Cup in 1998 and then even hosted it in 2010. While South Africa went from being banned to hosting the World Cup, the story of Mexico is actually quite the opposite. You see, Mexico had just hosted the World Cup back in 1986, but only a few weeks later, they were hit with a 2-year ban for a reason that is quite surprising, but rather common in football. Mexico was actually busted for having overaged players in their qualifying campaign for the 1988 Olympics. What a stupid mistake. Because of this ban, they missed out on the 1990 World Cup in Italy. Who knows what could have happened if they didn't get banned? But perhaps the darkest exclusion in the history of the tournament is that of Chile. From finishing third as the hosting country back in 1962 to getting banned over 32 years later, Chile had one man to blame for all their problems: Roberto Rojas. There have been many ugly stunts pulled in football, but Roberto Rojas has a special place in the Hall of Fame for what he made his country go through. It's Sunday, 3rd of September, 1989, and Chile are 1 goal down against Brazil. It's a qualifying match, and Chile only needs 1 point to be qualified for the World Cup, so being 1 goal down is a serious problem, but the match isn't over. Tensions are rising in the stadium until something mind-blowing happens. Rojas falls to the ground with blood all over his head. A Brazilian fan had just thrown a flare into the pitch, hitting Rojas in the head and injuring him severely. He is covered in blood and has to be taken off the field on a stretcher. He definitely couldn't play anymore. In support, all of his teammates walk off with him and abandon the match, stating that it just wasn't safe to continue playing. Obviously, everyone understood the Chile national football team until pictures of the match were released. The pictures clearly showed that the flare didn't even come close to Roberto Rojas. So where the hell did all that blood come from, and how did he get injured in the first place? Well, I hope you're strapped in, because no one could have expected this. It turns out Rojas actually inflicted the injury on himself with a razor blade he had hidden in his gloves. The whole thing was a strategy to kill the game prematurely if things were not going Chile's way. I mean, say what you want about the man, but what a dedication to his country. Unfortunately, it didn't work out as expected, and Roberto Rojas was actually banned for life, and Chile were banned from the 1994 World Cup. While Chile were banned for trying so hard to qualify for the World Cup, Myanmar was banned for trying to lose it? You see, Myanmar has never ever been qualified for the World Cup before, so you'd think they would seize every opportunity that came their way to qualify for the tournament, right? Well, quite the opposite, actually. During the World Cup qualifiers back in 2002, Myanmar were scheduled to play against Iran, but they decided to pull out of the game. This won't be a big deal, right? Well, FIFA definitely thought it was and slapped Myanmar with a $20,000 fine and even banned them from playing in the 2006 World Cup. The fact that it was the third time Myanmar had dropped out of a qualification game infuriated FIFA even more, but it seems that they have since learned their lesson, as they haven't missed another qualification match ever since. But Russia, on the other hand, may not even get a chance to qualify ever again. Unless you're watching this in the year 2100, then you know exactly what has been going on recently. Russia decided to invade Ukraine this year, and unfortunately tensions have been rising between Russia and NATO. The international community hasn't taken these actions lightly and have decided to ban Russia from the World Cup and many other international activities. The UEFA Champions League final, which was supposed to be held in Russia, was also moved. And it doesn't look like Russia will enjoy any international football tournaments anytime soon, as things are looking very uncertain at the moment, just like it is for Ecuador. You see, Ecuador's ban might not have been officially announced yet, but let's be honest, it's only a matter of time now. Ecuador are actually qualified for the 2022 World Cup, but it looks like they may not be allowed to show up because of one man, Byron Castillo. It looks like the only way Ecuador can be saved is if they find Castillo's birth parents. Why? Well, because no one actually knows when Castillo was born or what his real age is. He was actually suspended from the Ecuadorian national team back in 2017 after allegations were made that his birth documents were fake. He was reinstated in 2021 after an investigation, but this definitely wasn't the end of the story. The Chilean national team tried to get rid of Ecuador by submitting a complaint to FIFA, stating that Castillo was born in July of 1995 and not in November of 1998, as was previously stated. They also said that he was born in Colombia, not Ecuador. Very confusing. But FIFA eventually dismissed the complaint a month later and allowed Ecuador into the World Cup tournament. Everything was looking great for Ecuador until now. Previously, Ecuador was able to jump the hurdles because the evidence provided by other sources was not strong enough. But how do you defend yourself when the evidence comes from the horse's own mouth? You see, in September of 2022, there was an audio recording released by the Daily Mail in which Castillo himself admits to being born in Colombia and entering Ecuador years later, illegally. He also confirmed that he was born in 1995 and not 1998. To put a nail in the coffin, the Daily Mail published both his Ecuadorian and Colombian birth certificates. But why does the entire Ecuador national team have to suffer for one man's misdoings? Well, because the entire team knew about it all along. The recording was allegedly from an interview between Castillo and the Ecuadorian Football Federation. FIFA has since then reopened the case, but as of now, a verdict has yet to be reached. But it is safe to say that things are not looking good for Ecuador, and they could be disqualified from the 2022 World Cup. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Skiller Originals if you too love football. And watch our latest video on screen. I must say it's my favorite one so far.